Just as the demon mirage took the golden form of deer to lure Ma Sita away, the NDA government has crafted a shiny, dazzling budget promising prosperity while hiding the economic catastrophe beneath. This budget might shimmer, but it's hollow as a treasure chest filled with air. It has flashy promises of tax cuts, economic growth, infrastructure hype to distract the common man, but beneath this illusion lies a brutal reality. Hidden indirect taxes, soaring inflation, slashed public spendings, and last but not the least, corporate giveaways. Just as Ma Sita was misled, the common people are being pulled away from financial stability straight into a fiscal wrecking ball. Never underestimate the power of the common man. India now sees the truth clearly. BJP stands for Bhashan, Jumla and Propaganda, where speeches replaces real action. And NDA stands for, well, no prize for guessing, not delivering anything. Honorable Chairperson Ma'am and esteemed members of this august House, today I rise here not just to respond to the union budget that was presented by the Honorable Finance Minister for the year 2025-26, but also to expose the grand illusion it weaves, a mirage, a deception, or rather a golden deer budget. Well, all of you must be wondering, why am I referring to this budget as the golden deer budget? The 2025 union budget is nothing but a marriage moment from the Ramayana, an elaborate illusion designed to deceive. Just as the demon marriage took the golden form of deer to lure Ma Sita away, the NDA government has crafted a shiny, dazzling budget promising prosperity while hiding the economic catastrophe beneath. This budget might shimmer, but it's hollow as a treasure chest filled with air. It has flashy promises of tax cuts, economic growth, infrastructure hype to distract the common man, but beneath this illusion lies a brutal reality. Hidden indirect taxes, soaring inflation, slashed public spendings, and last but not the least, corporate giveaways. Just as Ma Sita was misled, the common people are being pulled away from financial stability straight into a fiscal wrecking ball. This government proudly proclaims no income tax for incomes up to 12 lakh rupees. But behind the scenes, they silently ensure the lost revenue is recovered through rising fuel prices, inflated service charges, hidden taxes on daily essentials, and the middle class, much like Lakshman warning Ma Sita, is skeptical, but BJP's propaganda and PR machinery is desperately working overtime to ensure that the common man and the people of this country still chase the golden deer anyway. What is given by one hand is being swiftly taken by the other. Just as in Ramayana, by the time people realize and recognize the deception, the economy has already been handed over to the Ravanas of crony capitalism, while the common man is left struggling to afford groceries, fuel, travel, healthcare, and even a simple movie night, all while being taxed for merely just existing. Madam, the budget presented by the NDA government is a masterclass in half-truths, half accountability, half delivery of schemes, and half-hearted governance. From half-built houses under PMAY to half-achieved farmer income targets, the government continues to sell dreams while delivering only fragments of reality. Infrastructure projects remain half-finished, welfare schemes reach half the beneficiaries, and their failed economic policies cater to half the population, leaving the rest in uncertainty. This is not a vision for developed India. It's a half-baked agenda wrapped in propaganda. Make no mistake, much like demonetization, GST, and the draconian farm laws, the full extent of devastation will only be visible when the smoke clears. I'll start with half-truths. So the NDA government in Maharashtra launched the Ladki Behan. Ma'am, the NDA government in Maharashtra launched the Ladki Behan DBT scheme for women in Maharashtra just before the assembly elections last year to use it as a political bait. Now with the elections over, they have conveniently started scrutinizing beneficiaries, thus removing 60 lakh women from the scheme. This is yet another jumla running deep in your veins, and people see through this betrayal, and they are watching. Another betrayal, ma'am. Before the elections, the government promised a legal guarantee for MSP. After the election, the promise have disappeared without a trace. Madam Finance Minister is here, and I'm glad she's present in the House. She in her speech mentioned that, and she began her speech with a flourish on agricultural growth. But when it came to MSP, the one demand that every farmer of this country has raised, there was only silence. No legal guarantee, no relief from the crippling debt. Instead of waiving farm loans, the government has increased the Kisan credit limit, which essentially means handing farmers more debt than relief. Since 2014, and whatever data I'm quoting in the House, if the chair wants, I'll lay it on the table of the House before tonight. Ma'am, since 2014, in the last 10 years, there have been 1 lakh farmer suicide. That's one suicide every hour. These aren't just numbers. They're a grim reminder of a system that abandons those who feed the nation while they conveniently feed lies to the entire country. They boasted of digital India, but conveniently ignore the dire state of our schools. While flashy slogans flood social media, the harsh reality is PM Poshan remains stagnant, leaving millions of children without nutritious food. More than 50% of the children under the age of 5 suffer from chronic malnutrition, with 17% underweight, 36% stunted, and 6% wasted. A crisis screaming for attention, and yet the budget for PM Poshan remains dejectedly inadequate, proving once again that the union government is invested more in headlines than hungry children. Smart cities mission, hype versus reality. They promised over 100 smart cities, but most projects today remain on paper or are rather incomplete. Basic infrastructure in many towns are crumbling, while funds remain underutilized or diverted to beautification projects. They spoke about making in India. That means they spoke about revolutionizing the manufacturing industry. But what is the reality and truth of Make in India? More imports, less manufacturing. Local industry today struggles under the rising imports from China, inconsistent policies, and low capital investment. Instead of boosting domestic production, India's trade deficit with China has skyrocketed over the years. Unemployment, they promised about 2 crore jobs every year, but in reality, unemployment remains at a 45-year high. They promised houses for all by 2022, yet another broken promise. In 2015, a promise was made to provide every household a home by 2022. 3 years later, in 2025, as the deadline passed, millions still await promised homes, highlighting delays and unmet expectations. Pattern, if you look at the pattern, big announcement and half execution, or rather zero execution. From infrastructure to education, health to employment, BJP's governance is a pattern of half delivery. Grand promises, incomplete execution, and shifting blame when failures are exposed. This budget is like, when I went through the budget, I was here when Madam Finance Minister presented the budget, but later I went through the budget document. Ma'am, all I realized is this budget is like those promises where you promise free meals, but charges exorbitantly for, giving a chair to sit, free water, service. So this budget is like a buffet that promises free meal, but charges exorbitantly for water, service, and cutlery. While taxpayers find momentary relief in minor reduction in income tax slabs, the government swiftly offsets these benefits through indirect taxes on fuel, essential commodities, rising road tolls, and higher consumer good prices driven by the increased GST rates. It's evident that these reliefs are nothing more than a mere illusion. Much like the Jio's once free data plans, attracting millions of users at a time, and then they raise the tariff sharply, which now comes monthly at a hefty price tag. The government claims to provide relief, but the reality for the middle class tells a different story. Let me give you another small example, and these are real examples. The government claims of an 80,000 tax benefit for an individual whose income is 12 lakh rupees annually. But it's nothing but a misleading farce. They thumb their chest about relief while simultaneously bleeding the common taxpayer dry through GST and unchecked inflation. A taxpayer in this income bracket, that means someone who is earning 12 lakh rupees annually, spends on essential categories like food, housing, education, healthcare, railway travel, air travel, transport, recreation, and each of these are subjected to steep GST rates under NDA's failed economic policies. The result, if you do a quick calculation, you will see that someone earning 12 lakh rupees ends up inadvertently paying 98,000 in GST. So the illusion of 80,000 tax benefit that BJP is desperately trying to sell, in reality is snatched away from GST alone. That means someone earning 12 lakh rupees is inadvertently having to pay 98,000 rupees on the account of GST alone. Then you have surcharges, you have cess, you have toll tax, you have many other tax. You have STT, security tax. And why I talk about GST? Because whatever one required to exist, madam, from medicines to tea, from toiletries to toothpaste, from hair oil to cooking oil, from fuel to oxygen cylinders, from rice to sugar, from butter to ghee, from undergarments to footwear, from biscuits to even popcorn at the movies, everything is taxed. In fact, more is lost to GST than they claim to give back. To make matters worse, there are several other taxes like I mentioned. There is toll tax, there are security transaction tax, there are cesses, there are surcharges, and then there's inflation also, which continues to erode whatever little remains. With an average 6% annual inflation, if someone is earning 12 lakh rupees today, that will shrink down to 10 lakh in 3 years. The only thing that is not taxed, or is rather untouched, is BJP's list of misleading promises and their sheer incompetence. That's only untaxed. The budget remains completely failure, and the budget also reminds me from a scene from a popular movie of Three Idiots. All of us have seen the movie. It went very popular, and throughout caste, creed, and religion, everyone loved the movie. So, ma'am, the budget reminds me of the movie Three Idiots, where Amir Khan's character, Rancho, exposes the education system's obsession with rote learning over genuine understanding. Similarly, today's government reminds me of the deceptive college director virus. And the role of virus was played by, I'm not talking about the viruses present here, I'm talking about the college director virus whose role was played by Boman Irani. So the college director virus, what he used to do? He used to offer flashy numbers, grand schemes that prioritized ranking over real progress. Much like virus, the focus seems to be on the surface level over real achievements, presenting a polished image rather than addressing the true needs of the people. Or if we take a page from the history, the British during the colonial rule, they promised reforms while continuing to exploit India's resources. BJP's budget follows the same playbook, advertising tax relief while ensuring the burden is transferred through hidden economic policies that favor big corporations and the elite, leaving small businesses and working class struggling. Madam, the budget presented over the last 1 decade perfectly sums up India and the BJP's version of Achhe Din, reflecting not just their grand narrative, but also the harsh reality of common people's struggle under the NDA's rule and regime. If I'm a citizen of India, I have to pay tax on the money I earn. If I'm a citizen of India, I have to pay tax on the money I spend. I'm a citizen of India. I have to pay tax on the things I buy. I have to pay tax on the things I sell. And moreover, pay tax on things that are already taxed, bought with money that is already taxed.
Correct.
Just imagine, you earn, you pay tax. You spend, you pay tax. You buy, you pay tax. You sell, you pay tax. And then you pay tax on things those are already taxed from the money that is already taxed. This sums up the budget completely. The people of India have woken up, and they will no longer be misled by these empty promises and false claims. The government must pay attention to the aspirations of 140 crore citizens. If they don't, they should brace themselves. What started as a teaser in June 2024 will soon become a full-blown blockbuster. After all, the saying goes, never underestimate the power of the common man. And they are all, every Indian who's watching this, who has seen the budget, who has voted in 24 and is going to vote again, exercise their franchise, they are far better scriptwriters than the BJP members of this House. India now sees the truth clearly. BJP stands for Bhashan, Jumla and Propaganda, where speeches replaces real action. And NDA stands for, well, no prize for guessing, not delivering anything. Thank you, Madam. Jai Hind.